I used to believe that if someone was secretly living in your home, you'd notice right away. I was wrong. He lived with me for months, and I never knew. I've never been the kind of person who startles easily. I lived alone for years, moved between cities for work, and actually enjoyed the quiet. That's why, when I moved to Chicago for a new job, living by myself didn't scare me at all. The apartment was a small studio on the north side of the city, inside an old brick building from the 1950s. The hallways were narrow, the floors creaked with every step, and the air always smelled faintly of bleach and stale coffee. At night, the building made noises, groans, pops, distant bangs, but I assumed that was normal for a place this old. When the landlord, Patty, handed me the keys, she smiled and said something strange. "If you hear noises at night, don't worry. It's just the pipes. This building talks to itself." I laughed and thanked her. For the first few weeks, everything felt normal. I worked long hours at a marketing firm and mostly came home just to sleep. But slowly, subtle things began to feel off. A chair would be slightly out of place when I came home. My phone charger would be unplugged even though I was sure I'd left it charging. A coffee mug would sit in the sink on mornings I hadn't used one. I blamed exhaustion. Stress messes with your memory, right? Still, I started double-checking the door before leaving, locking the deadbolt, then checking it again. One night, at exactly 2:37 a.m., I woke up for no clear reason. Then I heard it. A soft rhythmic tapping coming from the kitchen. Not loud, not rushed. Almost thoughtful, like fingers gently drumming against the counter. I held my breath. The tapping stopped. Heart racing, I got out of bed and slowly walked toward the kitchen. When I flipped on the light, the room was empty, but my refrigerator door was open, just an inch. Cold air spilled onto my feet. I stood there frozen. I hadn't opened it since dinner. I closed it slowly and locked my eyes on it the entire time. I didn't sleep again that night. The next morning, I asked Patty if anyone else had keys to my apartment. She gave me a tight smile and said no. When I mentioned the fridge, she waved it off. Old buildings shift. Things move. But her eyes wouldn't meet mine. A few days later, I came home to something that erased any doubt. A yellow post-it note was stuck to my bathroom mirror. "You shouldn't leave your window unlocked." My hand started shaking. The bathroom window faced a narrow alley with a shallow ledge beneath it. I checked the latch. It was open. That night, I nailed the window shut and barely slept, listening to every sound the building made. After that, the apartment felt different. My radio would turn on by itself, always tuned to the same static-filled station. The closet door would be open in the morning when I knew I'd closed it. Once, my toothbrush appeared on the opposite side of the sink. But worse than the objects was the feeling. Every time I came home, the air felt heavy, like someone had been standing there moments before I walked in. If stories like this give you chills, make sure you're subscribed, because this is where it gets worse. One evening, while changing clothes, I noticed something I had ignored before. Above my closet was a small crawl space, covered by a thin wooden panel that never fit quite right. That night, it was hanging crooked, clearly disturbed. I used a broom to push it back into place, telling myself it was nothing. The next morning, it had shifted again. That's when I called Patty and demanded she come over. She arrived annoyed, clearly thinking I was overreacting. She brought a ladder, climbed up, and pushed the panel aside. When she shined her flashlight inside, her entire body went still. Up there were blankets, empty food wrappers, A phone charger, shoe prints in the dust. Someone had been living above me. The police searched the crawl space and the rest of the building, but whoever it was had already disappeared. One officer told me this happens more than people realize, especially in old buildings with hidden access points. That night, I stayed with a friend. The next day, Patty stopped me in the hallway. She looked exhausted. She told me the police had found something else. An old key ring. One of the keys fit my apartment door. I moved out that week. A month later, a detective called to follow up. The man's name was Eli Turner. He used to live in my apartment years earlier. He'd been evicted, but never returned his keys. For months, he'd been sneaking back into the building, crawling through the attic, entering my unit while I was gone. They found journals, pages describing my apartment, my furniture, my schedule, what time I came home, what time I slept. One sentence still haunts me. She finally sleeps where I used to. It feels like I'm breathing my air again. Eli vanished. They never found. 3 years later, I live in a different state. New number, new name online. But last month, I heard my door buzzer ring late at night. No one was there. On the floor lay a post-it note. You shouldn't leave your blinds open. I left that night. And even now, wherever I go, I can't shake the feeling that I'm never truly alone. You think danger looks obvious. You don't expect it to smile at you, sit behind you on the bus, and memorize your life. I was 15 when my family moved to a small town in Indiana after my dad got a new job. The kind of town where everyone knew everyone and strangers stuck out immediately. Starting high school halfway through sophomore year felt like being dropped into a story that had already started without me. Every morning, I walked 2 blocks to catch the yellow school bus. I always chose the same seat, by the window, 1 row from the back. I liked watching the houses pass by. It helped me pretend I wasn't completely alone. On my very first morning, before the bus even pulled away, someone tapped my shoulder. You're new, right? I like your jacket. Her name was Haley. She had too much energy for that early in the morning. She talked fast, smiled wide, and asked endless questions. Where I was from, how long I'd be staying, what my schedule looked like. It felt a little overwhelming, but comforting too. For the first time since moving, someone noticed me. For the next few weeks, she saved me a seat every morning. We talked on the bus, sat together at lunch, and even hung out a few times after school. She was fun, loud, expressive, always laughing. Sometimes she stood a little too close or stared a little too long, but I ignored it. I told myself I was being paranoid. Then the small changes started. One morning I stepped onto the bus and saw Haley already sitting in my usual seat. She smiled and patted the seat beside her. Sit here. I saved it for you. I hesitated and told her I liked the window seat. Her smile didn't disappear, but it tightened, like she was disappointed, not angry. Later that day, she texted me. You don't have to pretend around me. I know you like sitting with me. I laughed it off. The next morning, my seat was blocked. Her backpack sat there like it belonged to the bus. When I turned around, she smiled sweetly. Looks like you're sitting with me today. After that, things escalated quickly. She started walking me to every class, holding onto my arm, introducing me to people as her person. She joked about us being inseparable, about how we were basically soulmates. I laughed nervously, unsure how to tell her it made me uncomfortable. When I started sitting with other people at lunch, she noticed. When I didn't reply to her texts fast enough, she noticed. When I talked to another girl, she noticed. The messages began piling up. Why are you ignoring me? You're acting different. I don't like when you push me away. I finally told her I needed space. That's when everything changed. One night, just after midnight, my phone started buzzing non-stop, call after call. I counted 20 missed calls before I finally answered, whispering so I wouldn't wake my parents. Her voice was calm. Too calm. You're awake. There was a pause. Then she said, "Look outside." My heart started pounding. My blinds were half open, and the street light across the road cast pale light into my room. Slowly, I turned my head. Someone was standing under the street lamp. It was Haley. She was holding her phone up, the screen glowing faintly. I hung up immediately. A text came through seconds later. "I just wanted to make sure you were safe." I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I pretended to be sick just so I wouldn't have to take the bus. When I returned to school days later, Haley acted like nothing had happened, smiling, waving, asking if I'd been okay. But every time I felt eyes on me, I knew. A week later, after practice, I was sitting alone on the bleachers scrolling through my phone when a message came from an unknown number. "You shouldn't make her sad." Attached was a photo. It was me, taken from behind, sitting exactly where I was. I stood up so fast I felt dizzy. I scanned the field, the parking lot, the fence line. No one nearby had their phone out. That night, I told my parents everything. The school got involved. Haley denied it all. Said someone must be pretending to be her. After that meeting, the messages stopped. For almost a month, life felt normal again. I started to relax. That was my mistake. One night, around 2 a.m., I woke up to a sound I couldn't place. A soft scratching, slow, careful, fingernails against glass. I turned on my lamp and saw a piece of paper pressed against my bedroom window from the outside, written in thick red marker. "I can still see you." I screamed. Police found small sneaker footprints below my window. Someone had been standing there for a while. The next morning, there was an envelope in our mailbox. No stamp, no address. Inside was a Polaroid photo. Me, asleep in my bed. The police searched Haley's room. Inside they found a binder filled with photos. Dozens of them. Me at school, in the cafeteria, walking home, sitting in class, even pictures of my parents' car. Her parents said she'd been sneaking out almost every night. They sent her to live with relatives out of state. I never saw her again. Years passed. Then, during my senior year, I was working a part-time job at a crowded movie theater. A woman in a gray hoodie stepped up to my line. She stared at me longer than normal, then smiled. "You still like the window seat, don't you?" Before I could respond, she melted into the crowd. I quit that job a week later. To this day, I never sit by the window, because no matter how much time passes, I can't shake the feeling that she learned my life once and never forgot it. Stories like this remind us that some people, some obsessions, never really end. They just hide, watching from the shadows. If you stayed until the end, thank you for letting this story reach you. More chilling tales are coming soon, every week. Stay alert, because sometimes the danger isn't in the shadows. It's closer than you think.